أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد أما بعد. Once again I welcome all of you inshallah to our weekly Tafsir Halaqah, where we are going through the life of Imam Tabari, and bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, once we've finished through that and we've taken the lessons that we want to learn from his life, we will begin with our tafsir, inshallah. So far, we have briefly touched upon Imam al-Tabari's nisba, his kunya, his name, his date of birth, his date of death, so everything to do with his beginning and his end. Now, inshallah, we're going to start exploring his life, the kind of life he lived as an imam. And as we go along, inshallah, we will mention important lessons that we need to learn for ourselves from his life. طيب. Imam al-Tabari, rahimahullah, as we mentioned previously, he was born in a religious, practicing, noble, respected family. And so after he was raised in such a caring and loving and pious household, in which he was not just growing up, he was actually receiving the foundational tarbiyah that was going to lay that was going to set him on the path of ilm for the rest of his life. So, inshallah, in the next few sessions, we'll be talking about his journey of seeking knowledge. And this is particularly important for myself, for yourself, all the students, for all those viewers who are going to watch this later, inshallah. There's a lot of lessons that we need to take from his life. So we begin with his initial years, inshallah. As we mentioned, that one of his nisbas is al-amuliyu, right? Al-amuliyu. And we mentioned this amul is uh, a city in the wilaya of Tabaristan, in the state of Tabaristan. It's a small city or a qasbah that is known by the name of Amul. And Imam al-Tabari rahimahullah was born there to a family who was respected, noble, religious, and a family which really paid attention to their children. And we will see the remnants of this, the effects of this on the life of Imam Tabari. So he took the initial tarbiyah from his mother, from his parents, from his mother and his father. And he took the initial knowledge, Islamic ilm, basic tarbiyah, the du'as and so on and so forth, from his parents as well. And then his father, he saw in him the signs of intelligence, rather astonishing intelligence, right? A piercing mind and rather abnormal abilities, subhanallah. So to speak, almost a kind of a supernatural bent to his intellect that was observed by his father. And so he sends him to the masajid and the centers of the Quran to learn the Quran in his homeland, in his city of Amul. And he did that. He wasn't fully 8 years old, so he was about 7 years old when he finished memorizing the Quran. Well, let's say he had just entered the seventh year and he had memorized he finished the Quran. Allahu Akbar. He perfected its qira'ah upon the teachers of his town. He learned its ahkam, basic ahkam of the Quran and Sunnah, and then tajweed from the ulama. And so he became quite a proficient qari, essentially, a hafidh, a very strong hafidh, and a very proficient qari. Perfecting his initial ilm of the Quran from his initial teachers, and his teachers of his town. And subhanAllah, he was only 8 years old when he led the people of his city in the salah, in Taraweeh. Allahu Akbar. And he was only 9 years old when he started seeking hadith, seeking the knowledge of hadith. And seeking the knowledge of hadith wasn't, as it became later, that students would perfect the ulum al-ala, the sciences, the tools that allow you to understand, and so on and so forth. So they would, they would study the sciences of the Arabic language, they would study fiqh, aqidah, and so on and so forth. And then when they became a bit more advanced, they would study hadith, or they would memorize hadith first, and then they would study fiqh of it later. So fiqh was something that was advanced. However, back in the time of Imam Tabari rahimahullah, things were slightly different. You see, although there were certain, uh, so to speak, madhahib, but they were not the madhahib or the schools of thought that we observe now. Okay, back in the day, the madhahib were the faham of the Salaf, essentially. Like they were just fatawa of the Salaf, and so when you memorized the madhab of Ibn Abbas, you were just literally memorizing his fatawa, and so on and so forth. Okay. So Imam Tabari rahimahullah he's growing up in the same time where the normal tradition is that once you've memorized the Quran, you've gone through the phase of the Kuttab, and you've learned the initial Arabic language in that phase, you start your journey of hadith. And while you're memorizing hadith, you're learning hadith, you're also learning its fiqh. Okay, you're learning its basic fiqh, its understanding, its legal implications, and so on and so forth, and its aqidah and everything that's in the hadith. So you can imagine he's only 9 years old, and he started studying hadith in that way, right? This is remarkable based on our standards because we would not expect a 9-year-old child to be giving perhaps A-level exams, let alone study hadith to that level. And likewise, another thing to keep in mind is that hadith was not collected in books, or it was not as widely available as it is now, right? Imam Ahmad had written his al-Musnad. Imam al-Malik had his al-Muwatta, which had gone through some revisions by a student, al-Layth and others. So slightly different riwayat. You had many other books of hadith before Imam Tabari as well, but they were not as we have, in one place like a hadith library and so on and so forth, right? We still had to travel to gather the knowledge of hadith. But it was more readily available than a few hundred years back, so 100 years back when Imam Ahmad was traveling to seek ilm and memorizing the hadith. But he was still looking at the same kind of time where you have to travel to learn hadith, not like, or I have this collection of, all the books of hadith right over here in front of me in my library. So I don't have to essentially go and collect this first and then memorize it and learn it and so on and so forth. I already have it, everything in my hands. It wasn't the case with Imam At-Tabari and the students of knowledge, the ulama who were studying at that time. So only 9 years old, Allahu Akbar, and he's studying hadith with its fiqh and everything, its ahkam and so on and so forth. So he started writing a hadith. And Allahu Akbar, he literally he gave himself to ilm. He presented himself wholeheartedly to this path of ilm. And you can say he gifted himself entirely. Like there was nothing else that he would do in his life except to study and seek the knowledge of this deen. Allahu Akbar. So he starts writing hadith now, and he's only 9 years old. He's completely granted himself in the service of the ilm. Allahu Akbar. And he's not even, hit puberty. Allahu Akbar. And I want to make a point here. Two things, in fact. One, that to be able to have that kind of confidence in yourself with your abilities and to figure out so early in your life what you are going to do, it requires a very conducive environment, for that kind of thought to build up in a child. And the credit of that goes entirely to his father and his mother and his parents, essentially, for giving him that kind of confidence. In in our modern times, we are unfortunately, what we're doing is we are pampering our children so much that, he'd be 30 years old or she'd be, 25 beyond, and so on and so forth. And we'll still call them children. Oh, they're just children, just having some fun, and they'll get back to life. They'll get back. They'll come out straight, eventually, inshallah. They'll figure themselves figure themselves out. They'll sort themselves out, right? So while they grow up in all those 20, 25 years of their life, or 30 years, parents, what they should have been doing, they don't do. They don't give their children their confidence, the ability to go out and really do the grind in life, right? Allahu Akbar. So the parents of that time, they understood the importance of ilm. They understood the importance of looking after their children and keeping a keen eye on what abilities the child demonstrated. And I've mentioned this before, and I'm going through this again, but I'm in awe of the kind of parenthood that we're seeing from the fathers and mothers of our Imam. The father sees that Imam Tabari, from his initial childhood, he shows the loftiness in thought, right? This piercing intelligence, a mind that is so curious about everything that he wants to learn everything. He's always asking questions. And subhanallah, and not just a mind with questions and curiosity, no, but also abilities that he could see. 7 years old and he's memorized the Quran. 8 years old, he's leading his entire city in the salah. Allahu Akbar. And the father observed this. He was very keen on it. And as they were giving the Islamic tarbiyah to their children in the house, he made sure that his son would never have to work to earn for himself and provide for himself. He, of course, there comes a time when the parents, they leave the world and you have to look after yourself. But as long as his father was alive and in his initial years, the father, he made his mission to never, have to make his child work. He dedicated himself, or he dedicated his child to the service of Allah Azza wa Jalla in his religion. And of course, we mentioned the dream that he saw, that we said, Nasaha fi dinillah wa dhabba an shari'atih. He saw this in his dream, that he was, that he would, do something great for the religion of Allah, and he would protect the Sharia of Allah Azza wa Jal, right? The Sharia of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So all of these little chains are meeting, right, to provide this bigger picture that this man, this young child, is going to do something great. And the father was paying attention to that. And this is how parents should be. Second thing I want to mention is the fact that Imam Tabari, once he had, excuse me, once he had memorized the Quran, he had written a hadith, he started doing tawaf of the ulama. By tawaf, I mean he literally started circling around the city, seeking as much knowledge as possible in the day, in the night, whenever and whatever time it may be. You would find Imam Tabari, rahimahullah, either in worship or in study, right? He had engrossed himself from morning till, from dawn till dusk in the study of the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal, and all the ulum that he could find in his city. This is what I wanted to mention. The ulama of the old, they had this very clear in their mind, that you don't travel unless and until you have mastered and acquired and gathered and perfected everything that your city has to offer you. If you haven't done that, then you are fooling yourself into thinking that if only I travel to that particular country or that particular university, I will make a difference. If only, right? And this low, if, this is something that we've seen that it destroys people. It destroys people. They don't appreciate the ni'mah that they're in the blessing that they are living in, and they want to escape that. They want to escape the life they're in, and they don't, essentially, these kinds of people are known as reactive. They're not proactive. They're reactive to everything in life. They don't want to take their problems in their hands and solve them, right? They just know to react to problems. They don't have the ability or the mindset um, to solve things, right? To take things into hand, to bear responsibility, to go out and make as much of what you have in within your reach and within your hands. Of course, something of a part has to come from the parents and how they give tarbiyah to their children. The confidence has to come from the children and the right guidance, the right mindset. But this is something that you can learn later on as well, right? This is something that you can, and of course, everyone has a choice. You have this, you face a problem, you have two possibilities. You can either react to it and say, oh, complain and moan about it, not do anything about it, get under your duvet and just cry and so on and so forth. That's one possibility. The other possibility is, okay, so I can't control this. This is something beyond my reach. So why am I complaining? Why am I crying about something that I can't control? This is qadrullah. I'll just be patient. I will instead focus on something that I can do, something that I can solve, something that I can commit to, and some is something within my abilities to to achieve, right? And so the ulama of the old, this is a common theme. You would not find anyone, or you would struggle to find anyone who did not follow this pattern, seeking the knowledge of your land, perfecting it, squeezing every little ounce, every little drop of the ilm that you could possibly acquire in your city. So no matter where you are, the opportunities that you have are not the opportunities that the Aimma had, right? They had to struggle a lot. They sacrificed a lot to acquire that knowledge. We have all of that ilm within, our fingertips, between our hands, just a click away, just a type away, right? And of course, there came a time where all that ilm had been gathered. It was in one place. So you'd find ulama later on, such as Imam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah and others, such as Imam Nawawi rahimahullah. Although Imam Nawawi, we do find traces of his travel, but Imam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, you wouldn't hear that he actually traveled. Although he studied with over 1,000 teachers, but you don't find traces of him traveling to seek knowledge, right? As such. Because Damascus or Dimashq in his time, and of course he came from a family of ulama anyway, but Dimashq had become the center of ilm, right? He had all the ilm at his doorstep, so to speak. So times change, right? But the pattern is still the same. What is within your ability, what is within your reach, you should be taking benefit of it. So Imam Tabari rahimahullah, he really, you would find this, that he first of all acquired the ilm of his city. طيب. Then Imam Tabari rahimahullah, after, it was literally very, very quick, very, very soon that Imam Tabari rahimahullah had acquired the ilm of his entire city, right? And he had given his father a lot of hopes, and his father could see the vision that he had, the dream that he had being fulfilled very, very soon. He was only 12 years old when he left his city, Amul, to further his studies in the neighboring lands of Faris. And this is something else. This is the second thing. The next thing is not to go to Medina or to al-Qura. You start acquiring your knowledge from whatever is within you. For example, if you're in England, and this is something that I actually personally did, alhamdulillah. Before I left, I learned my tajweed, right, from the ulama that were in my city, طيب. That I also tried to learn the Arabic from within from the. I learned Arabic on my own, but the conversation, you still need people to converse with, right? You need people, you need friends to talk to, so on and so forth. So I tried to find that in my city. So I tried to, in my initial education, what was required of me, I made sure that I acquired it within my city. And if there was something that I could not find in my city, and I had acquired everything that was in my city, the city of Manchester, there were certain things that I couldn't acquire for the next, I don't know, 10 years, because there were some ulama who were the masters of qira'at, and I couldn't possibly study that at that point. So something else that was lacking in my studies was the study of Aqidah and so on and so forth. So I would travel to other cities to acquire that. Alhamdulillah. And this is how, Tulab al-ilm should be, even if they're living in the West. You have people, you have students of knowledge who have studied something, right? You can still benefit from them, right? You can still benefit from them. However, you also have a second option now, which is these online institutes, online education that, especially for the sisters, because sisters can't really travel and sit with the male scholars that easily, that, in that convenience. So you have these online circles now, so many, and of course, YouTube has so much to offer now, free of cost, right? I personally think if you have not exhausted at least the YouTube catalog, you have no right to travel outside your country. If you have not exhausted the YouTube catalog of such a plethora, immense amount of knowledge that is on YouTube, you have no right whatsoever to be, subhanAllah, traveling outside your country. You have so much on YouTube. You literally do, right? In almost everything, but with ilm, you have so much. What you do need is, of course, something of a mentorship, which alhamdulillah we are trying to provide with our program, because it's one thing to have all the books, all the teachers, all everything, but you need someone to guide you, to cut your journey and make it as smooth as possible, and to hold you accountable, and to provide you with expert advice, and to build you up as a talib al-ilm. You need that murabbi, basically, right? That murabbi is what our focus is. As far as ilm is concerned, we are trying to provide all of that for free of cost, inshallah, on our YouTube channel. Again, this Tafsir Halaqah is a step towards that. And many of the things that inshallah we have under plan that we want to do, which have not been done in the English language. That is the only reason why we're doing it in the English language. But in Arabic, there's so much that you can find for free of cost. Anyway, so returning back to Imam Tabari rahimahullah, Imam Tabari, after exhausting the resources of his land, he heads towards the neighboring lands of Faris, neighboring lands. So we mentioned his age is only 12 years old. That is remarkable, right? 12 years old, and he's traveling on his own, because back in the day, 12-year-old boys were men. They were not babies, right? Still wetting their beds. No, 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 no. 12-year-old man is a man. He's not a child, right? Taking responsibility. 12 years old, and he's off to seek knowledge in the neighboring lands. And they say, subhanAllah, it was famously said, فَجَابَ الْأَفَاقِ وَأَكْثَرَ التَّطْوَافِ subhanAllah. وَانْتَقَلَ مِنْ بَلَدٍ إِلَى بَلَدٍ. Allahu Akbar. Like, he blasted out. His ilm really blasted out, blasted the horizons as soon as he stepped foot outside his city. He'd never looked back. He never looked back until he had sought ilm of the entire world. Subhanallah. So now he's traveling the lands of Faris, then he's going to go to Iraq, and then he's going to go to Sham, and so on and so forth. He's not going to look back now. He's on a mission. Allahu Akbar. So the first city he heads towards is Ray, right? So he took the ilm of hadith from them, the ilm of lugha, the ilm of tarikh, tafsir, and he was studying day and night, right? In the day and in the night, you would find him busy with ilm. He was like a honeybee, right? Traveling from one flower to another flower, collecting the nectar of all the different buds. And subhanAllah, he really did justice to that metaphor. And a honeybee who takes the nectar of so many different flowers, and it blossoms, right? It gives you the most organic and the healthiest and the most tastiest honey, right? And that is what Imam Tabari is, and his life is. And he was like a bird that would fly from one corner to another, trying to seek his rizq. And his rizq was ilm. In that regard, you would find that, subhanAllah, ulama like Imam Tabari, they're like the angels whose only job in life, or their sustenance, their rizq, their food, is the dhikr of Allah Azza wa Jal. And that is how you see Imam Tabari living his life, like the life of an angel. Allahu Akbar. Then Imam Tabari rahimahullah, he travels towards al-Iraq. Now he's finished with the lands of Faris, right? And he's still quite young, around the age of two. So he's around about 16 years old, 14, 15 years old, sorry. Because he was born in 25, right? So 40, 15, so about 16 years old, yes. We know about this. So he's in Iraq by the age of 16. We know this because he wanted to go and study with Imam Ahmad, rahimahullah. Um, um, but Qadrullah, Allah had willed for Imam Ahmad to pass away as Imam Abu Ja'far, Muhammad ibn Jarir al-Tabari, rahimahullah, was traveling to meet him. And as he was traveling towards him, the news reached him that Imam Ahmad had passed away. Rahimahullahu ta'ala rahmatun wasi'an. So that was a dream that couldn't be fulfilled, Qadrullah. However, Imam Tabari, rahimahullah, he stays in the city of As-Salam, the capital of Al-Dawla Abbasiyya, the city of Baghdad, and he writes from his shuyukh, and it really documented their ilm. He had hadith from them, from the muhaddithin of Baghdad. He took the fiqh from the ulama of Baghdad. Allahu Akbar. And he took the fiqh of all the madhahib that were to be found in the city of Baghdad. That is his kind of the thirst that he is living with. Allahu Akbar. However, the city of Baghdad is too huge to conquer in that amount of time. And because Imam Ahmad is not there, his motivation turns towards Basra. Now, he has taken a great load of information, astaghfirullah, and knowledge and ilm and nur from the ulama of Baghdad. However, he wants to collect ilm from other cities as well. And then he would return to Baghdad, basically. So he heads to Basra now, right? So he's lived a portion of his youth in Baghdad, right? Adolescence in Baghdad, and now he's going to go to Al-Basra. And when he's in Basra now, again, the same thing, he's going to collect the hadith from its ulama, okay? The hadith from the ulama is something that you see, this is something that is scattered, right? The first thing and the most important thing that you're collecting from its ulama is the ilm of hadith, okay? And lugha and fiqh and qira'at. This is essentially, and when you say hadith and fiqh, aqidah is within that, right? The ulama of hadith were the ulama of fiqh as well, and of course the ulama of aqidah, right? And these sciences were not as scattered as we see them now. Everything was one. Ilm al-hadith, when a talib al-ilm is studying hadith with the sheikh is giving him the usul, the ulum al-hadith and everything in a piecemeal time, in a practical way, and the application is key. That is how the students of knowledge back in the day learned when these usul and these sciences had not become written in books. They were given as part of a dialogue, right? And they would pick these usul, pick these sciences up, learn them by way of application. So they're studying hadith, and the sheikh would mention something, and essentially that is an usul. So the student, the young student would learn that. Okay, this is essentially the direct method of teaching, of learning usul, and this is so much. And I've personally learned so much of istinbat, of usul, not from the books of usul fiqh, but from my discussions with the ulama. And while we were studying Bukhari and so on and so forth, the books of hadith, we learned so much of usul fiqh while we were learning and discussing a hadith with the ulama. The usul of, checking hadith, grading them and so on and so forth. A lot of things in practice we learned from the ulama, not from the books. And this is how it was back in the day as well. So Imam Tabari rahimahullah is now in Basra, and he he is again collecting the hadith from all of its ulama, the famous ulama of its city. Some of them quite famous: Muhammad ibn Ali al-Ala al-San'ani, Bishr al-Mu'adh, Abi al-Ash'ath, and Muhammad ibn Bashar ibn Bundar. Many great names of Basra, the ulama of Basra. He took hadith from them, he took fiqh from them. Then he moves to the city of Al-Wasit, and he's still in Iraq. Okay, he's still in Iraq. So in Wasit, he not only focused on hadith, but he also studied many ulum from the ulama and the shuyukh of the city. And then as soon as he's finished from Wasit, he's going to Kufa now. It's like these are like university degrees. He's knocking them out one by one, right? He's finishing. He's squeezing every single ounce of its ilm and then moving on. And he's still young. He's still in not even 20 yet. Then after roughly I'd say he's still like quite young, but we don't know the exact date of when he was in Kufa. But he goes to Kufa now, right? And he takes ilm from his ulama. And then after he's done with Kufa, he returns back to Baghdad because, of course, he had not exhausted Baghdad, and Baghdad is something that couldn't be exhausted that easily. So he returns back, and this is the time now that he starts to teach somewhat, and he teaches the Quran to all known people, but at the same time, he's now focusing on the ulum al-qira'at as well while he's in Baghdad again, right? And he's learning the qira'at from one of the ulama of the Salaf, Ahmad ibn Yusuf al-Tughlubi, right? Um, the exact dabt of his name is I'm unaware of it. So, but this is one of the ulama that he took the qira'at from while he was in Baghdad now. And then he especially mastered the fiqh of Shafi'i rahimahullah with his teacher Al-Hasan bin Muhammad al-Sabbah al-Za'farani, right? And he actually, in fact, wrote from him, from his lectures, a book in fiqh. طيب. Then he taught this book, to a certain group of people, ulama in Baghdad. So he's studying and teaching. He's benefiting and he's learning at the same time. Allahu Akbar. And this is the time that he becomes famous for his ilm in Baghdad. He's known in the Majalis al-Ilmiya. He becomes quite well respected amongst the ulama of Baghdad. And the ulama of his time, they confessed his virtue, his ilm and his intelligence, and all the qualities that we've mentioned before. The ulama are now giving a witness, they're bearing witness to the phenomena of Imam, the phenomena which Imam Tabari rahimahullah is. Allahu Akbar. So Imam Tabari rahimahullah is making a name for himself, of course, by the will of Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah is giving him this qabul while he's in Baghdad and he's teaching and he's learning. Allahu Akbar. Now he's essentially finished with Iraq as well. He's done with Iraq, officially done. Now he's going to move to, Allahu Akbar, essentially southwest, right, towards Sham and the lands of Misr and so on and so forth. So this is the man, Imam Tabari rahimahullah, and you can see there's so much to learn from his life. You see that he's not wasting opportunities, right? He started off from his hometown, then the neighboring countries, then travels towards west to Iraq and so on and so forth, or south and then west. And once he's finished Iraq, he's gonna go to the neighboring land, which is the land of Sham and so on and so forth. So you see, once you've conquered Baghdad, I say conquered, I mean you've acquired the ilm of it. There's a lot of repetition that's going to happen in your ulum and so on and so forth. So his journeys towards Sham and other countries are not going to be very long, but you will find, and of course with his intelligence anyway, like you would not think of Imam Tabari rahimahullah to spend a lot of time and of course he's not wasting any of it, in fact. So this is important. Imam Tabari rahimahullah is a gem of an imam that we are unfortunately not normally told about as much as we should be learning about his life. And you will learn later, inshallah, that Imam Tabari rahimahullah, he became a mujtahid. He studied everything, all the madhab and all the schools of thought and ulum and everything. There was nothing that was left of the ulum that, of his time that he did not study. A man like that, right? You would definitely see him, become an imam of his in his own right. So he did become a mujtahid, and inshallah, when we go through his tafsir, you would find that he gives you a lot of usul, and he gives you a lot of ijtihadat that are of his own, very unique ijtihadat. طيب. And so he's a mujtahid. He's a mujtahid of the same caliber as Imam Shafi'i, Ahmed, Malik, Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, جميعا. Okay, so inshallah, may Allah uh, allow us to tread the path of ilm and take these Aimma as inspiration, inshallah. And this will be all for today. We will meet again next week, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, with the next chapter of his life, with his journey in Sham and Misr, and so on and so forth, inshallah. Many more lessons to learn, inshallah. And I hope to see everyone there. Barakallahu